Support for this video is brought to you by Manscaped. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code LJTV at manscaped.com.
Yes, people, welcome back to Lead Judges TV. Get yourself over, if you haven't done so already, to Manscaped. Use the code LJTV, 20% off. Lead Judges is still waiting for his call from EastEnders. I don't think he's going to get it. Lead Judges, how are you, sir?
I'll tell you what, I might not be getting the call from EastEnders, but my balls are clean as anything, like, you know what I mean? So that's all that matters.
KC, how you doing?
Hi, Potsy. How you doing, mate? How you doing, Lee? You well, mate? And
I'm good. Thank you very much, KC. Thank
nice
you very much.
one.
Canton, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, not bad, man. Glad that it's Friday tomorrow. That's what I'll say. Just happy that the week is done and we're a day closer to Arsenal.
Yeah, man. Now we're going to go into it a bit because to start with you, Judges, the international break for me. What's he got there in his hands? What's he doing?
You don't need scissors no more when you got Manscaped. I'm telling you, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you don't need none of that no more.
Nice little segue, that is. Nice little segue. Get yourself over to Manscaped, people. Lawnmower 4.0, 20% off with LJTV. Let's make it happen. We've all got it. And no more scissors. Judges, let's start with you, man. International break's over. What do you think this international break might do in terms of Arsenal, positively and negatively? Some of the players are in the mix of the last few days, but hopefully we've got an injury-free team to select from. So what's your thoughts, first of all, on the international break and the effects that could have on some of the players that are at the Arsenal?
Well, I'm going to say this now. Like, I was at the game on Tuesday night in a box, and it was like fantastic. Like, you know, do you know what got in the way? The game got in the way. Like, you know, what I mean, of a good night. You know what I mean? It was woeful. Like, you know what I mean, these international games. I'll tell you what. I'm going to be really honest with you, and I don't know how everybody else feels. But if you'd never played football or never watched a game of football before, take them to an England game, they never go again. You know what I mean? Like, it's that boring. It's so, you know, this weekend you'll see a completely different thing. Like, and that's what I'm sorry. Like, you know, international football, particularly internationals. Friendlies. Get rid of them. Like, you know what I mean, I know you can say about bringing in players and all that. Like, it's just a joke. You know what I mean? I've got no interest in it. There's no passion for it. You watch the difference come the weekend when teams are playing. It's just so much better. I'm going to say this. I enjoy the international break because you've got no pressure on the weekend. I've had a lovely weekend. You're not worried about results and whatever and everything like that. But ultimately, these next 6 weeks, we're going to go through hell, guys. We're going to go through hell. So enjoy that little international break you've had. And now get ready for a roller coaster. A roller coaster.
It really is. It really is going to be, man. This is going to be an interesting few weeks. Canton, pleasure to have you on as always, mate. Love talking the Arsenal with you. A Monday night game upcoming, Crystal Palace. What do you make of this, man?
Because we got experiences there.
Mate, we don't talk about our trips to Selhurst Park.
Bad experiences from what I'm hearing. But
I'll tell you, I've heard that they're going to introduce a Bush Tucker trial on this series of Celebrity I'll Get Me Out of Here, where you have to sit with Lee in an away game. That's one of the tasks.
When you're losing.
Yeah. Scary.
Would you rather have a load of cockroaches thrown all over you or do that? Do
yeah.
You know what I mean?
All day. All day long.
One of those, isn't it? But this is going to be a Monday night game, Canton, and obviously Monday night games are an interesting one because the Saturday and Sundays are pretty chilled. But it's always a bit nervy, isn't it? Because it kind of depends what's going to be happening on those Saturdays and Sundays for Arsenal. And this is going to be a tough game. So what's your take on that one, mate?
Yeah, look, it's frustrating, actually. I feel like it's always after the international break, they lumber Arsenal with the Monday night games. We have to wait all week. Not only had to wait like 2 weeks for Arsenal, but we had to wait all weekend as well for us to play. You know, I suppose what the benefit is, you get to see all the other results, see where you're kind of at, you know, how much pressure is going to be on you. But the issue is obviously if everyone else does win, you know, the pressure is very much on you to deliver. And on a Monday night at Selhurst Park, it's certainly not an easy one. And we know that all too well. We've been bested 3-0. I mean, as I said, me and Lee were both there that night and watched that awful game together. And it was Yeah, well, easily one of the worst experiences I've ever had as an Arsenal fan. Quite easy. It was the whole you're not fit to wear the shirt kind of chants coming from the crowd that night. It was how things have changed, and quite significantly. And thankfully, because, going into this game, it has been a season where Arsenal they've turned themselves a little bit with these kind of banana skin games, I suppose we want to call them. Remember, Wolves away, really struggled there in the past, got a really good 1-0 win. Villa away, we haven't won there in a fair few seasons, got a win there again. I think what's going to be the difference for us is that defensively we've remained solid in plenty of away fixtures, and that's going to be the key. I mean, Elise and Zaha are doubts. That's big if they don't have them, but we should really be getting a result no matter if their best players are fit or not.
Yeah, absolutely. KC, what's your take on this one on Monday night? Because Palace are no mugs, and I've got to big it up, and I'm going to say it now. I think Patrick Vieira's done outstanding. Like, I really do. I tipped them to go down this season because the amount of players they lost, and it was obviously his first management in the Premier League. I thought to myself, that team's looking a little bit paper thin. Some of his recruitment has been great. I look at what they're doing at the back. Joachim Anderson, obviously Mark Gay has got himself into the England side. The Elise Tom mentions. Zaha, they've kept. Mateta looks decent. Edouard's been a good signing. Conor Gallagher has been outstanding for them. They're looking like a decent side. Mitchell's got himself an England call up. So this is going to be a tough one, Casey, isn't it?
It is. It's a trap game for us. It's a potential banana skin. London derby. Let's get it right. There's still the bragging rights. North London v South London. Always a tough place to go. They make a racket, the Crystal Palace fans, don't they? You know that. But it's one that we have to win. Again, we get into this game where we know what Crystal Palace are. We've got to go and take the game from them and get them 3 points. It's that simple. There's no easy way of doing it. We've just got to apply ourselves. We've seen what we can do. We may have to lean on our defense a little bit more again, just like we did at Villa at times. But we have to show the quality and attacking third. And it was nice to see, even in a practice game, Lacazette score some goals in the week. This week has proven, get Tommy Arsenal going, get a few players fit. I'm sure we'll discuss it at some stage. But for us, we've got to want it more than them. Dan, it's that simple. And we've got a greater need for these 3 points than Crystal Palace. So we better win.
Yeah, we better win indeed. Judges, what's your thoughts going into this one? Vieira doing a great job. Palace a tough opponent. But Arsenal on decent form, man. So it should be a good game, mate.
Yeah, I always think this is a difficult place to go. It always has been. I remember the times at Selhurst Park when it had no roof. It was an awful place to get. It's always been a horrible place to get to. Yeah, South London as well.
Hey, we used to give them a snap most of the time back then.
Every now and then, you know what I mean. But do you remember those days? It's funny because we used to give them a good slap at Selhurst Park. And they used to come to Ivory and do well against us. It was a real weird situation, which has happened this year as well. If you look back, they should have beat us. This time, and it is a great atmosphere at Selhurst Park. But it's one of those games. If you it's like watching football through a letterbox. You know what I mean? It's just a real weird situation. If you've been, you know what I mean. It's a real, but it's a fantastic old school, old ground. I quite like that atmosphere of it all at Selhurst Park. And I've always had a little soft spot for Crystal Palace. I don't know why. I think I think because they're South London, and I'm a little bit obviously a South London lad as well. So I think there's something in that. But hopefully we get the look. Patrick Vieira's done a fantastic job. Let's get this said right now. A legendary footballer in my eyes. So much admiration for him as a footballer. But I think he's doing a fantastic job as a manager. And what the difference between him and Mikel Arteta is that he's probably made his mistakes at other clubs, at Nice and in America and everything like that. And he's come here now and he's right on it and he knows what it does. And what's the interesting thing, I said this earlier on today, is that 3 of the young lads have gone on there and played for England under him. And they've all been highly, singing his praises, what he's like and everything there. And I imagine that I think Patrick has learned a lot off of Arsene Wenger, but I think he's also learned a few of the mistakes that Arsene made as well. So he's not going down that route. He gives them a little bit of leeway, but he's not too much. There is a pattern of play. There is a way that they play. They defend well. And I think it's going to be a really, really tough game. But if we're going to win this, we've got to defend well. And that's where I think our strength is. I looked at that game against Villa. We defended really, really well that game. When it was put on us. Do you remember, like in the past, when teams have put it on us, we've panicked, and it's like,
We'd buckle.
You know what I mean? Keenstow Cops, and then all of a sudden we buckle, and we end up losing the game. It seems to me that when it's our time to defend now, a little bit like Chelsea in their prime when they used to say, right, we're 1-0 up, we're going to defend. Like a bit like the old Arsenal. This is the time now. It's our time now. We've let the forwards do their bit. It's our time to defend there and do it. And I think that they enjoy defending. I think our defenders enjoy it. And we look much, much more comfortable. And I think that you give Mikel a little bit of credit for that, because I think that he's been even when we were poor last season, he's been working on that, the foundations, the base. And I do see a lot of things, in this Arsenal team, is going back into the Jules Graham area. I know, like Kevin goes on about, but I was speaking to a few of not name dropping, but I was speaking to a few of the Arsenal boys on Saturday.
Who did you speak to, Lee?
I tell you who I spoke to. I spoke to the one and only Paul Merson, Alan Smith, and I was just talking to Dan earlier on. Alan Smith, I thought, well, he ain't going to be entertaining. What a funny man.
He's brilliant, isn't he? He's brilliant.
He is absolutely really, really funny. Like, educated, yes. Very posh, yes. But very, very funny. Anders Limpar was there as well, and what a ledge he was, But they're all saying, how Jules Graham got that defence sorted out first for them to move on, and I think that, and all of them sort of said they see the similarities with Mikel Arteta and what he's doing. Not the same, of course, but there's similarities, so it bodes well for the future if that's the way it's going.
Yeah, and I think everybody said, haven't they, that they can see in terms of the recruitment where we're going and how we're trying to build from the back. And Tom, I know you've been a fan of that. How do you see us setting up against Crystal Palace? Do you think that we're going to go a similar way? Do you think there's going to be any tweaks or changes whatsoever?
I think I love that Judge's name dropping throughout this. Oh, if you want to check out,
I've got some more coming in a minute. Don't worry.
If you want to check out my chat with Emmanuel Petit, you can on
yes. I was going to say that.
Yes, Tom.
Name drop if you want that. You know what I mean?
This is the place to do it if you're going to do it.
Yes.
So do go check that out. But no, in terms of
just quickly, Tom, I must say, that was a class interview, man. I listened to that.
Thanks, mate.
Petit. What a great guy as well. He come across so well, I thought, and obviously you always do, Tom. But no, if you haven't done that, get over and listen to that.
I thought Tom brought it out on him. Didn't you think he brought out his personality in the interview? I think he brought it out, So
come on,
100%.
Keep it coming.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. No, I think we're going to set up how we've always set up, mate. We're going to go for them. There is no, I think the difference between this Arsenal side and say what Unai Emery did. So Unai Emery is very meticulous in looking at the opponent and seeing how they'd set up and what their weaknesses were, how we can exploit them. Arteta is very much, this is Arsenal Football Club. We focus on ourselves. Yeah, we might make a couple of tweaks, especially against some of the big boys like Liverpool, Man City, etc. But, 9 times out of 10, you're seeing this Arsenal team play the way they know how and play the way in which they want to play some good football. It's taken 2 and a bit years to really see kind of an established style of play under Arteta, but it is now here. And we've seen some beautiful football this season. I think that's the way we're going to try and go. We know that we can get in behind them. We know that there are players that are good in the air. And we, back in the past under Arteta, we'd be flinging balls into the box. It wouldn't be that effective. But, this Arsenal team have started to create some beautiful chances with some really good bits of interplay in the wide areas, low-driven crosses into the box, little bits of interplay between Ødegaard and Saka on the right-hand side. Tierney getting an overlapping Smith Rowe or Martinelli and getting those low balls into the box too. And then Lacazette in, connecting the play, not always scoring the chances, granted, but certainly setting up opportunities for other players like Saka, like Martinelli, etc. So we're going to need him there. And I think that's what we're going to see is Arsenal playing for Arsenal and not for their opponent.
Fair play. KC, who are the danger men for Palace and how are we going to deal with them, mate, do you think?
Well, the danger men are Zaha and Elise. Let's be sure. But you know what? They've got Matete, who's a handful. He's a big lad. If he don't play, Benteke is going to be on, who knows how to put himself about. So I think that's really their strength with Conor Gallagher, who's like a dynamo in midfield. He just runs all day. And he's a fine player as well. Good youngster, now an England international. And he is willing to run beyond the strikers. He's willing to run in behind as well. So they use their weapons really well. The key is we've got to keep our back five intact, and we might not see our fullbacks be bombing on just as much as we would like, just to keep them at bay. Then once we get the ball into Thomas Partey, we play from there. We know we could unhinge Crystal Palace. We know we've got the firepower, although it's quite limited at times. We have the firepower to beat them. But the key for us is we defend properly. We defend properly, Dan. We win this game. It's that simple. Thomas Partey's got to do his job in the centre of midfield. Feed Odegaard. Xhaka's got to do his job. But do you know what? I fancy us. I really do fancy us against Crystal Palace. After the last, it was an international break when we played them before, and it finished 2-2, and, we looked a bit leggy. So I hope now we're more of a team and we can go there and look, the onus is on them to come and attack us. I think once they come and attack us, there's going to be gaps for us to exploit. So I fancy us, mate.
Man, I love the optimism. Before I come to Lee, Tom, just quickly, Elise and Zaha doubts. Am I hearing this correct? What have you heard?
Yeah, Elise has got I think it's his left foot inflammation from his time with the under-21s in France. He came off in their first game, trained or tried to train, and then came off the training field, wasn't able to comfortably work on it. Vieira kind of bigged that one up more so in the press conference, so Elise is probably got more of a chance, I think, than Zaha. But Zaha was injured for the Ivory Coast, was unable to play against England in that game, despite the fact that Zaha was very apt. Like he wanted to play the game, but it was supposedly a grade 1, possibly a grade 2 hamstring injury. If it's grade 2, there's no chance he plays. If it's grade 1, he could recover in time because it would just.
If it's grade 1, they're not going to risk him.
Yeah,
even if it's grade 1, with an FA Cup semi-final coming.
Exactly, and that's what I wrote about today. With the FA Cup, you would imagine that they wouldn't risk him. Zaha will push because that's what he's like. He's desperate to play. He loves playing against Arsenal specifically because it's a club that he likes to impress against. But Casey's spot on. Like the FA Cup being there is too much of a pull to risk him. But I mean, Vieira's going to want to get a result as well. So if he gets told that Zaha could play, you never know. They may risk him. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think they should, but who knows?
Judges, that's got to be good news for us if Zaha and Elise are a doubt, because they're obviously massive threats. Now, I'm not saying they haven't got any other players, because we've mentioned them, haven't we? And Casey's right that Mateta and Edouard and Benteke can cause us problems, as can Conor Gallagher. But when you look at that team, you think, actually, without Zaha and Michael Elise, is it Elise or Elise? I always get that wrong.
Elise.
Michael Elise, yeah. Without them two, I still feel that they are massive threats, judges. So what's your thoughts if they're both injured, mate?
Oh, yeah. I'm a big Zaha fan. I think he's fantastic. And he always causes us problems because he's a good player. So if they're not playing, even better. And I'll be amazed if he plays. Amazed if he plays on Monday. Hamstring injury. They're always a bit dodgy. 10 days minimum for that. And with a semi-final coming up, he ain't going to be... It'll be absolutely mad if they do. And this is the great thing about them being in the FA Cup. You know what I mean? Because if they weren't in the FA Cup, maybe they would risk him. But I think they'd be absolutely mad to, So I think that, listen, the more their better players are not playing, the better. And I feel this is a good thing for Arsenal. I think when people say to me, do you want West Ham to do? Well, yeah, of course I do. I want you going deep as far as you can go in that Europa League as you can, because we've got you coming up in a few weeks' time. So, keep going. There's only one team I want going out early doors. That's them down the road. And any other team, we'll keep them going in there for a little bit longer. And I'll tell you what, West Ham, do really, really well in the Europa League. I honestly do. But I think while they're in that, they've got one eye on that, and I'm pretty sure Crystal Palace have got one eye on that FA Cup. Listen, whatever you say about Crystal Palace, done fantastic. They're not going to get relegated. And I think when they looked at it at the beginning of the season, it was a worry for them. It's not now, so they can just try and get us relaxed. Sometimes that's not a good thing because
dangerous. Sometimes that's dangerous.
Dangerous when you're relaxed and not got the pressure. Arsenal have all got all the pressure because we're going things. But I'll tell you what, I asked this question earlier on. Pressure games, all these games coming up. We haven't had this sort of pressure for a very, very long while. Last season we was here in 8th and all that season. I want this pressure. If you want to be successful, you've got to have this pressure. You've got to learn from these games. This ain't pressure, by the way. Considering
Good
if you're
pressure.
going for the title, it's good pressure. This is, you know what I mean. In a couple of years' time, if we're going for the title, you know, like Liverpool and Man City are going for it. That's pressure games. They're the games that you've got to have. But to get to that level, you've got to go through this stage what we're going through now. Do it, and I think this is very, very important for Mikel and Arsenal. Is that we now motor towards this top four. Just breathe. I know it's not going to be easy, but just go bang through it. Not stutter and just get through it over the line. Go through it so it sets you up for next season. Like people will be looking at it and going, look at Arsenal. Look, they've gone on a 10-game unbeaten run there, crashed it. Now they're going to move on and they're going for bigger, better things. These next 10 games for me is what are we going to do going on to next season? If we're missing it and we're just getting through it and we end up another 10 points or 12 points behind Liverpool and Man City, I don't want that. What I really want us to do now is, you know what? We're not worried about what's below us. We're now trying to we're going to try and take Chelsea. That's the attitude I want. Steamroll these next 3 games and move on. Really important that Arsenal start sending out messages. So I think that these next games are going to be pressure, but let's have it. And if they are a roller coaster, I think they're going to be like twists and turns and all that. But hopefully, the pressure's on. We can be a little bit nervous and we come out with the results that we need.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. And the next 3 games, I want 9 points. I believe we can get it, and I think that we should be aiming for that. Tom, let's come to you before we come to KC. I want to talk to you a little bit about team news. Tell me, Yasu, there's rumours that he could be featuring. What would you do is my first question, and what do you think the team will be, in your opinion, mate?
I'd save him. It's a calf injury, muscular. I wouldn't risk it. If they feel as though he's in a situation where, he's not had a full week's training yet, it's Palace. And I think Cedric's been good. I think Cedric has covered really comfortably. He had a bit of a dodgy game against Liverpool, but a lot of the team are going to get struck against a side that have got as much quality as they do. And he's been involved in 6 of 7 wins in the Premier League. I think that whilst he's a player that I know has got his deficiencies, I think is covered. And I think when you're coming up against Crystal Palace, possibly not even Zaha on the left-hand side, I think he'll be okay. And especially with Ben White there to cover too, I think he should be fine. So I would continue to, just be a little bit cautious. If you want to bring Tomiyasu on for 20 minutes, you feel he's fit enough for that, to give him a little bit of game time, then fine. At the end, go and do that. But I wouldn't risk him because he's going to be crucial for us in these games against West Ham and Man United and Chelsea and Spurs, the really big tests that we've got between now and the end of the season. So yeah, I'd stick with Cedric. And I think the rest of the team, to be honest, probably picks itself. Saka is said to have recovered. We talk about Ramsdale being out, so Leno's going to come in. Cedric's going to be there. We're going to see Ben White and Gabriel and Tierney, Partey and Xhaka. We're going to see Ødegaard at 10. Well, I say 10, kind of this hybrid 8 role that he's playing at the moment on the right-hand side. Saka, Lacazette and Martinelli, I think, will be the starter on the left-hand side. So simple. What are you all laughing at? What are you giggling at? What's going on?
It's Campbell sending the messages, isn't it? Like, it's like a little kid at times, Tom. Like a little kid.
Hey, I sent Lee Judges a message earlier on, and he was on the train, right? And he is so scared of opening one of those messages and getting that noise that he won't even open the messages anymore.
Do you know what? I've been done so many times.
He done me on the train a little while ago. When you're on. It's full of a load of people on the train. And it went off and I just think.
Well, you got to wear headphones, Judges.
I ain't got headphones.
He loves it. He loves it.
You know what I mean? So I got that Campbell. He sent me a couple of messages the other day. I said, I am not answering him. I just don't. You know what I mean? And I thank God I didn't, you know what I mean? So
I must admit, I got done by UKC as well, and I was literally in one of the quietest places you can imagine, the quietest times. Open up Kev's message. What's this? But yeah. And boy, did it go off loud. Oh dear. Oh, wow. Yeah.
It always does, doesn't it? It goes off loud and you're like scrambling.
It's a little prankster. Unbelievable.
It's brilliant.
Kevin done one to me the other I can't remember what one it was. It was really good. So I sent it onto our football group, and Tony was with all his family, like for a family. He texts me back, see you next Tuesday. I don't know. I went, oh no, terrible. It's Campbell that sent me that.
Yeah. Kev said
Honestly,
to
mate.
send it to your Toad. Yeah.
Oh, it was absolute classic, like, you know what I mean? So,
Oh, mate.
no, boys
No,
will
they are.
be boys, won't we?
The
Like,
boys
you know
will
what I mean?
be
Boys will
boys,
be
mate.
boys, indeed.
Never
Let's come
change,
to you.
never change.
Let's come to you, Kev. What would you do with Tommy Asu? And is there a doubt that maybe Saka might not be well still for this game? What would you do, mate? Team news wise.
Do you know what, Dan? I think Tomiyasu, you've got to really give him an assessment all week. It depends how much he's trained, what he's looking like, and obviously Mikel Arteta's going to ask him, did he play in that Brentford game against the Brentford B? Did he get 45 minutes under his belt? You'd like to think he has, or got some minutes. Or if he hasn't, then you don't risk him. That's for sure. I think Cedric has done enough that you can actually take it easier with Tomiyasu. Because is it the week after where we've got a midweek game as well? So maybe that's the time where you actually ease him in. You can get him off the bench against Palace, because there's we've got quite a few games coming up. But I wouldn't risk him. As for Saka, it all depends how he feels. He's had a lot of football. He's one of our match winners, as you know. If he's feeling okay, great. If he's not feeling good, then look, you could either be on the bench or you step aside. We've got Martinelli coming back. He's now a full Brazilian international. We've got Emil Smith-Rowe there, who is a quality player, joint top scorer. And we've got Pepe on the bench. Because I wouldn't put Pepe in ahead of Smith-Rowe or Martinelli. No chance. I'd play them two.
Well, you're going to upset Dan, Kev.
No, he won't.
I'm just
I've
saying
never
that's
said
what I
that
would do. That's what I would do.
I would never play a Pepe ahead of him. I always believe Pepe gets a hell of a lot of criticism, and I'm one who sticks up for him because I don't think he deserves it. But that's another story. I would definitely play them lads ahead of him because I think they're class. Judges, let's come to you. Do you think Saka is getting harsh treatment this season in terms of getting hacked and hacked and hacked? And do the referees need to do more? Is my first question. And then, of course, your thoughts on the team news and who you would play.
Do I think Saka's I think he is. I think he's being targeted. I think, but that's a compliment. I think at the end of the day, listen, is no. Well, obviously we're going to talk about the great man in a little while in David Rocastle. When he played on the flank, he gets a lot more in those days. It was a lot more harsh treatment that you got. Anders Limpar, I said the other day, was kicked to didn't have the. He was actually talking about that. He said he was actually loved to play in this day and age because of the protection that you get. So I do feel that there is a little bit there, ultimately he brings a little bit on himself because he just teases players into tackles and things like that. And that's part of his game, and he does it bloody well. So I've got no problem with that. What I don't like is the only thing that I would say is that when there's times when he's getting fouled and the ref just keeps to allow it, and then the crunching one comes in. Give him the foul when it first matters, And I think that there is a little bit of there was one against, I think it was against Aston Villa. It was a blatant foul, and the referee there seemed to be reluctance to give it. Do you know what I mean? He thought, I've got to give it now. Be a little bit more assertive with the fouls for him. But listen, he's going to get targeted, and I would say to him, and I'm pretty sure he knows anyway, that's because you're a good player. Jack Grealish was fouled loads and loads last season. It's not because he's crap, is it, or whatever? You know what I mean? It's because he's a top player, and it's as simple as that. So the more he gets fouled, the more business he's doing. For me, I think Saka's all right. I think listen, if you're going to get COVID, you know what I mean? I don't wish it on anybody, but if you're going to get it in the international break, you know what I mean? So COVID's been good for him there. Get it, have a few days off, and then get yourself back into training this week. And I'm pretty sure that he's back in training. And I think that he needed the rest more than anybody, if I'll be honest. Obviously, is he in the England? So I think that he is. I think that he's now on to play for England now. You know what I mean? So I don't think it was that important that he was in those games. So I think he's had the rest. Hopefully he comes back nice and fresh. As Kevin said, for me, Brazilian international. You know, that means a lot. It's a big thing, big statement to do that. And I think that lovely little bit of skill. I know everybody's going on about that bit of skill, but I am the perfectionist. No good doing all that skill and then not putting it away, Gabs. You know what I mean? Must put it away. It was an absolute lovely bit of skill, but he didn't put it away. So a little bit of criticism, but what, you know, like to show that in your first game, to do things like that, that just shows you that this kid's got confidence, and you know he knows he's in a good place at this moment in time. So I would go with it. It's really difficult then to leave out Smith Rowe, but I'm going to name drop a little bit there. Bumped into his dad in Tesco's the other week and had a conversation with him. He's just got a slight niggle, which is keeping him out of. Kept him out of that first game. I don't think his body is quite right at this moment in time. So for me, you know, like he could well be an impact player for these next 5, 6, 7 games, and then bring him in, like, you know. So I wouldn't rush. I wouldn't rush him back there. So for me, Martinelli, Lacazette, hat-trick man, Lacazette. You know what I mean, against Brentford B. You know what I mean. Like, shame we can't do it against A teams, but we're again. I'm trying to be a little bit, not be critical, like, you know.
Really well.
Not be critical, geez. If that's not critical,
well, no, you know, come listen.
Come here, Lacazette. Let me crack it.
I'll say this now. Really, Lacaz's got to get, you know, like be the main. He's got to get in on the goals.
Got to get some goals.
I will say this with Lacazette. His work rate is tremendous, but I don't know if you noticed in the last 20 minutes of the game against Villa, you could see he physically drops.
He dies a bit.
Yeah, and that's 3 games in a week. Now, the next time we play 3 games in a week, Man United and Chelsea are in that. The level goes up a little bit, and he looked a little bit jaded in that time. So this is where it's going to come in very, very important. Just tweaking that front 3 for the next few games. It'd be interesting.
100%. Tom, let's bring this one in with you. Mo has said...
Can you name drop someone, Tom, in this one?
Maybe next week. I'll just keep watching space.
Okay.
Yeah,
love
absolutely.
it.
Tom Lee, Mo has said that Laka might cost us top 4. Is that harsh, or does he need to step up and put the ball in the back of the net, Tom?
It's a good question, because he's a number 9, and you know the expectation is your number 9 scores goals, and the fact of the matter is, I think he's got 4 in the Premier League this season. I think 2 of those are penalties. So he's got a lot of assists. I think he's got he had a period where he got 7 assists in 9 games, which matched Mesut Ozil's record at one point. So it's not like he's not helping. I thought he was very quiet in the Aston Villa game. I didn't think that was one of his best games at all. I think it actually was pretty invisible during that match, and it was relying on the people around him to really pull us through. But is he going to cost us top 4? I think if we don't score enough goals, then you have to ultimately look still at January in a way, as to why maybe we chose not to bring anyone in. We let Aubameyang leave, and I don't really have too much of an issue with that because of the situation. But could we have not brought maybe someone in? And there were players that moved in January, even if it was just for 6 months, just to give you a different option at striker. I think if we don't make top 4, that will be something that is analysed and looked back on maybe with a pinch of regret. But look, Lacazette, if he carries on doing what he's doing and has done this season, I'm not going to look back if we miss out on top 4 and say we missed it because Lacazette didn't score enough, because I think he's contributing significantly most games to how we play. And when we look at who we want to bring in the summer in terms of a striking role, there is going to be characteristics of what Lacazette has given us this season that we are going to need to have in that striker that we sign. So you can't say that, you know, he's useless or he's not worthy, because, you know, we need a lot of his qualities to continue in this team. We need more. We need an upgrade. We need additional finishing abilities and probably more aerial threat as well. But, you know, he has been good in what he's provided. So, no, I would say I don't think he'll cost us top 4. I think we may look regretfully back at maybe January and what could have been if we were able to bring someone in. I think that, you know, his contributions, especially since, say, December, have been very solid.
Dan, can I just say something about that, Dan? Tom makes a really good point. But you know what nobody actually talks about, which is really what we need? We need Lacazette to get between 5 and 10 goals in the next 10 games. If Lacazette could get between 5 and 10 goals in the next 10 games, we're in business.
A flair player as well, Casey, as well. Like he has these patches. He's not once someone you'd say it scores 30 goals across
He's
the
prolific.
season.
He's not prolific,
He
but
scores
he has
5
some
or 8
purple
goals
patch.
in like a 10-game period, doesn't he? Usually that's what you
Yeah.
see from it. So I think
And that's what we need out of him. These next 10 games, we need him to hit a nice vein, 5 to 10 goals. That will do us nicely, because what that does, that takes a bit of pressure off Saka, Smith Rowe, and Martinelli. Now, teams then have to say, right, we've got to account for Lacazette because he's starting to score. That frees up the other players to then contribute. So we are a team that plays and tries to score by committee, but we need our number 9, our focal point, to really help us. That's what we need. And if he does, I fancy our chances.
And do you think, Casey, I'd love to ask you this as a centre forward, if you're a striker that plays off the shoulder, you're going through one-on-one and goal, and you're fluffing your lines, then I might understand Mo's point in terms of this striker is costing us games, points, top 4, whatever you want to call it. But because what Laka's doing, like you've just mentioned there, is completely different, and we're looking at goals by committee from other players, but Laka's kind of essential and instrumental to some of that play, I don't think you can put your kind of blame on just him, because he's not being asked to go through one-on-one and score those goals. Now, that's the way I see it. I don't think personally we can look at Lacazette and say the reason we're not getting top 4 is because you're not scoring enough. Because at the moment, I don't think he's getting himself into those positions to be scoring enough. Now, that might be a little bit of a blame on the style of play or whatever it be in terms of Lacazette's focal point. But I think it's having to be utilised at the moment so that the likes of Saka, Ødegaard, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and sometimes Pepe can get them goals. Is that not right?
Dan, you make a good point. What I will say is this: I like to re-watch the games and the highlights and stuff, and see our attacks. And when I watch the attacks, and maybe the people watching, maybe you should do this as well. Go back and watch some of the games and watch some of the attacks. Some of the attacks a couple of seasons ago, Lacazette will be on some of those balls that are flashing across the box. Now, he's just lost a yard. And he wasn't devastatingly quick to start with. But when you just lose a yard, you're always a yard off. Always. So a ball always beats you. That goes in front of you, you're not there. All we require is somebody who can link the play. Then when the ball goes out wide, he could hit the box with a bit of speed, because as the ball comes in, you've got to meet it. Laka just doesn't have that energy anymore to do that. So what does he do? He makes himself a wall. He makes himself a link man. He plays great possession football, and he can set people up around the box. That's great. But we just need that extra bit of energy. Somebody who can get on the end of Tierney getting down the line, or Martinelli bursting down, Saka bursting down, Cedric bursting down, Smith Rowe bursting down into wide areas and putting balls across. And we need somebody in there who can just meet the ball. Unfortunately, Lacazette just doesn't have that energy anymore. And as Lee quite rightly said, last 20 minutes, he's flagging because he has to do that much work to keep it going. And, we're a young team. We're a young team, and we need somebody probably more energetic moving forward.
I think you're right. I've got a couple of things I want to do towards the end of the show, so I'm going to ask for some score predictions, should I say, now, and then we'll move into a couple of things for the last 15, 20 minutes or so. Lee, judges, let's start with you. What score is it going to be on Monday night, sir?
I think Arsenal will keep a clean sheet, because if there was one thing that I rely on is our defending this moment in time. So I think it'd be a tough game, but I'm going Crystal Palace 0, Arsenal 2.
Oh, KC.
I'm on it. Same. 2-0. 2-0 win. Arsenal get back on the horse after international break. I think Crystal Palace, I think it's a good time to play Crystal Palace, if I'm honest with you. Just after international break, some of their players who have made their debuts, normally they're having a break, aren't they? Normally they've had a break, or they're doing whatever. Now they've been training with England, playing the games, and I'm sure it has an effect, maybe a draining effect on them. So we should be a little bit more used to it. I'm going 2-0 as well.
Tom.
Yeah, I hate to be boring, but my prediction as well was 2-0.
Full house.
I got to
Come on, Dan, full house.
I think we could. Yeah, we've been fantastic away from home recently. That's been something that's changed in our form drastically this season. Is how we've been away from home, and keeping clean sheets has been a huge part of that. So yeah, 2-0 for me, and fingers crossed we can, not give those lot anything to celebrate, because when they do celebrate, it's rather annoying because they're pretty good at creating an atmosphere. So yeah, 2-0.
Fair play. I think this is going to be tough, so I've gone for 1-0 to the Arsenal, but I feel like I should change it. I feel like I should change it to 2-0 just to match up with you guys. Do you know what I mean?
Get a full house.
Optimistic to get a full house. But I'd say, listen, I just want 3 points. I don't care if it's 2-1, 3-2, 4-3. I just want 3 points on Monday night. That's all that matters. Boys, I want to talk about a couple of things before we wrap up. The first is William Saliba. I want to start with Tom on this one, then come to Lee. Tom, we spoke a little bit earlier about this one. And how well this guy's doing. He's got his call up to France. I just want to first of all say, I don't care what people think in terms of, but this is the right decision, wrong decision. Let's talk a little bit about him as a player, right? Because I think that there's a lot of, but he should be playing for Arsenal. No, it's the right decision. He ain't ready yet. France is a crap league. You wait till what he does. Let's just forget all that for 1 second. Because I'm looking at this player thinking, I like this guy. And I want to see him in an Arsenal shirt. Yeah. Now, whether you believe he's better than Ben White and Gabriel, whether you think he's going to be a backup, whether you think we're going to go free at the back, I don't care about any of that. We're going to discuss it. But I think this guy should be at least seen in an Arsenal shirt next season. And I'm liking what I'm hearing about him. When he's getting in the front side, when he's playing well, not just for Saint Etienne, not just for Nice, and now also for Marseille, I think it's got to be good news for us, Tom, surely.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot's been made of, the way he's been treated at Arsenal. And I think, look, we have to hold our hands up and say in 2020, we really made a lot of mistakes with William Saliba. The situation in the summer, not getting the loan, not registering after not getting him the loan for the Premier League and the Europa League squads was a big, big mistake. But since that point, I think that maybe it goes under the radar a little bit what we have done with Saliba. We got him that loan to Nice, which was that first step on kind of, getting him the development that he needed. He played really, really well during that 6 months. He wasn't perfect, far from it, and not many 20-year-old centre-backs are perfect, let's be real. And he played alongside another young, inexperienced player in Jean-Claude Todibo, who joined from Barcelona on loan, and those two formed a pretty good partnership at Nice to not only keep them up, but push them towards a decent finish in the end. Then when he came back, he was basically made aware that, right now, Mikel Arteta didn't see him as a starter. And Saliba's rhetoric has always been, I want to play. And Saliba then made the decision to go on loan and agreed that with the club, and the club were fine with that. The club wanted him to go to an English team. He didn't. He wanted to go back to France, and he wanted to, because that's where he felt comfortable. That's where he felt like he'd get the most out of a loan, where he'd improve the most, because he's comfortable there. And I kind of understand that. I think at the time I was a little bit critical of that decision because I wanted to see him at an English team and get, acclimatized to the Premier League, etc. But actually, when you look in with the benefit of hindsight, it's been a brilliant year for him. He's gone from strength to strength. He's minimized the amount of mistakes that he makes. He still makes a fair number of mistakes. As I say, he's still only just turned 21 years of age. There aren't many number of defenders that age that don't make errors. But what he has done to his game, he's improved it to a level where his progression and his passing and his competency on the ball is to such a level that, he's actually kind of perfect to what Mikel Arteta wants from a centre-back. And he would give Ben White a good run for his money. I know that you didn't want to go into comparisons and stuff, but, he would really give Ben White.
I'm cool with that.
In my opinion, Ben White's a better player right now, but I think that Ben White has got 2-3 years development on Saliba, so that's not really surprising. He's also played in English football for a lot longer than Saliba has. And look, Liga is not a terrible league. It's a good league. It's got a lot. You think about all the players that come out of Liga and French football, it could hardly be bad. If it was trash, they wouldn't see all these players come through. The thing is, though, is that the Premier League is still a different animal in comparison. And so when you're playing week in, week out in the Premier League and being tested against Premier League attackers like Ben White is, it is a different kettle of fish to say at Marseille, who are currently the second best sides in French football, and being tested by the other teams in Liga is different. So he comes back. The intention is for him to come back right now. The big question is that We don't know what Saliba is going to say when he comes back. Is he going to turn around and say, I want to play week in, week out? If he says that, my expectation is that Mikel Arteta says, that's not going to happen right now. You're not going to be playing week in, week out. But there will be significant opportunities for you because, well, fingers crossed, being Champions League, at minimum Europa League next season. And, you know, you're only one injury or one suspension or one fitness issue away from getting your chance. And you've seen what happens when players drop out. Smith Rowe drops out. Martinelli comes in, flourishes. You know, Ramsdale's taken that spot from Leno almost immediately because he's earned it. Arteta does reward players who earn their spots in the team. And I think that, you know, Saliba can do that. But there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered.
I think you're right there, Tom. Judges, let me bring this to you, because my biggest pet hate with how far we've dropped at times is when I hear people say, oh, but what happens to him then if he comes in? How about good? Because that 1995, 96, 97, 98, I wasn't saying that about Martin Keown trying to get in place of Adams and Bold. I was more than happy with it. So why is it now all of a sudden, oh, but if Saliba comes in, what happens to Ben White? Oh, how about it's good and let them just fight it out? I can't understand this. I don't understand. I think it's a good thing for the team, no?
100% a good thing. When was the last time we had 3 decent central defenders? When was the last time? Long time ago, like, you know what I mean? And at one stage, it was sort of like, give me, you know, Keown, Adams, Sol Campbell, Keown, Bold, Adams, David O'Leary, jump in, you could put into that, like, you know. And then all of a sudden, you think like, you know, Sol Campbell, maybe Barmail, Toure, but not 3 at the same time. So it gives you options. Now, I see I see Ben White playing for England at right back. On Tuesday night, he could actually play right back for us, and Saliba come in there. We can play a back 3. We could play. Why is it always got to be? Oh, Gabriel's got to play. You know what I mean? If Gabriel's not quite at it, bring him and play 2 of them there. Like, I think Arsenal. I think Tom made a great point here. Mistakes have been made, but I still think at the end of the day, it's been for the best. Him going out on loan, learning his trade as a 20-year-old central defender. It's tough. You know, like, I'd rather him make mistakes for Nice and Marseille than Arsenal. And now, I think at the end of it, he might have well stayed here this season. And look how many games Rob Holding's had this season. Not very many. So why keep a real talented player out of the side? So the best thing for him was to go on loan, because we knew that we weren't going to be playing many games because of we ain't got no Europe. But next season coming back, when we're playing hopefully Champions League football, you know, you play one game, you might be rested the next. But I'd say every game next year, if you're in the Champions League, is a big game, and we need a big squad. And I don't see it where it's a worry. I think he comes back experienced enough to be able to handle it. I don't think he would have been able to handle it. Well, I watched Callum Chambers start off his Arsenal career really, really well, and then because things didn't go quite well, things went downhill. That, like, learning from our mistakes. I think Arsenal have done a good thing here, like, you know, I really do. And this is what the loan system's for. It's very, very interesting what Mikel said today. Probably should have got Balogun out on loan a little bit earlier than what they did. So they're learning from what they're doing now. What they're seeing with Balogun is that he's improving, and they're probably thinking, well, if we'd have done that 6 months ago, he might have been ready for us at the beginning of the next season instead of sending him back out on loan again, probably to a Premier League club next season. So I think that they are learning on these sort of things. I think for next season, if it was me, I'd say to Balogun, you're going to the Premier League side this season. You're going to learn and be ready to come back.
6 months. You're going to get 6 months and then you come back.
Yeah, 6 months and you're coming back. And I think that's something that Arsenal need to do. And I think that Saliba will be a real big plus for us. I really do, like, you know. And there are times when you can go through at the back and be positive. I don't know, you know, it can work both ways. You can be positive with it, or you can be like very, very cautious with it. It gives us options, boys.
Lee,
Yeah,
I'll tell you something. William Saliba playing on the right of the 3, Ben White in the middle, and Gabriel on the left. That now our midfield and our strikers can be as aggressive as they want to hunt the ball down, because the only ball that the opposition will have is the long ball, and all 3 of them can run. That's sometimes been a problem for us when, the
Yeah.
lads can't run and the teams get out then. But all three we've got two big guard dogs and we've got Ben White in the middle. All of them could run. All of them are comfortable on the ball. I fancy that. But it makes us flexible. It really does.
100%.
Kev, do you reckon that he can force his way into this Arsenal side, Saliba?
I think he will, if I'm honest with you. I don't think he can. I think he will. He's proven that he's good enough to play for France. He's proven that he's good enough to start for Marseille. Yeah, make some mistakes, but he's a star. We bought him for his future, not for him at that time. Now he's got the games under his belt. Now he's starting to look the part. I think he will, when he comes in and he starts playing, I think he will force his way in. And then the manager is going to have to adjust what he's doing. And I think he's going to make us an even better outfit. Because let me tell you something. You don't see Man City centre-halves. They've got 3-4 centre-halves. You don't see them complaining. They all play their quota of games. That's what has to happen at the Arsenal. We've got to have more competition all over that football pitch. And if we've got competition at the back, we are in a good spot. That's for sure.
Well, I
agree.
Sorry, Dan. I was just going to say
go for it, Tom.
The Liverpool Man City thing is something, Kev, that gets thrown up a lot with this, because talking about kind of, 3 centre backs or 4 centre backs that are all the difficulty with that and the Saliba situation now is obviously that if you're a Liverpool or you're a Man City defender, you're being guaranteed a title challenge every season. You're being guaranteed to be in the Champions League running for the trophy every season. And players are willing to sit on the bench for, say, 20 games a season out of, say, 50, because they know at the end of the year there's a really strong chance they could win a Premier League title or plenty of trophies. Arsenal need to get themselves there. You're absolutely right. And doing that is done through improving the squad and creating competition between places. The issue for Saliba is that there is a feeling that, he wants guarantees of regular first-team football. And if he comes back in the summer and says to Arteta, I want a guarantee that I'm going to be playing regularly in the Premier League and starting games, and Arteta turns around and says, honestly, I can't give you that guarantee because we've got Ben White and we've got Gabriel Magalhaes, and they've been fantastic for us this season and brilliant in getting us to, hopefully, top 4. And that's where the crux of the issue is going to be, is if Saliba is willing to fight for his place. That's the question. I don't think there's a question about whether Arteta wants him, whether Arsenal are willing to give him a place. I think the question is about personally him and whether he's willing to fight for that spot.
Yeah, I think it's a great
point. I think he is. I think he is, Tom, if I'm honest.
I think there's
I think he thought he was coming in and playing, Lee. I think when he signed for 20, and he said this in an interview, when he signed for 27 million, he thought he was coming in and playing. And Arteta turned around and said, "You're not ready yet," basically. So
no, but don't forget, Arteta didn't sign him. He was signed before that, wasn't he? So Arteta inherited him while he was on loan. He comes back for the summer and then obviously has a look at him and then says, look, at the time we had more than enough centre-half. So the best thing for you to do is go out and get some game time, proper game time. And that's what he's done. Listen, I think the fact of the matter is he's not put on an Arsenal shirt yet. And what's the point? He will get his game time. I truly believe that.
I hope so.
I truly believe he will. And I think listen, you let him go and he turns out to be as good as we believe he could be, heads are going to roll. So that ain't happening. We've made enough mistakes in the past. And this regime, I think they've got themselves one there. They've definitely got themselves a player.
Yeah, I think so as well. And this, seeing Saliba and Guendouzi at the moment playing well, it's kind of a shame that we haven't seen him in an Arsenal shirt, both of them, long enough yet. So hopefully there's room for Saliba to grow into this one. I'll tell you what, Sophie Nicolau is lighting up this chat, man. It needs you back in there, Kev, saying Sophie.
Sophie.
She's lighting up this chat, bless her. She loves it. I love Sophie. I must admit, I miss her.
She's brilliant.
Lastly, boys, last thing I want to mention, last few minutes, the judges, will start with you. There are quite strong rumours that the North London derby is going to be scheduled for the penultimate week of the season. Judges, simply this. is the top 4 race going to be over by then, or is this going to be decided on the penultimate week by that game, in your opinion, mate?
I think we can go there safely, knowing that we're got top 4.
Why do you think that? Is that because you're confident with the games coming up that we're going to take enough points?
I feel confident that Arsenal will get the job done before that. Yeah, but I think that they'll beat. They'll win the next 3 games. If they don't, then it goes on to that game. But if they win the next 3 games, I think then I say we might not get something against Chelsea or West Ham. But I feel that Arsenal have got a big game in them somewhere along the line. That maybe like getting a result at West Ham because they've got the Europa League. I think that we'll beat Manchester United at home. And I think that the tough one for us will be probably Newcastle. But don't forget, that's with Tottenham winning every single game. I don't think that they'll do that. And I think that they'll slip up against Liverpool. And I think that they've got one more bad game in them somewhere along the line. I hope so anyway. But I feel confident that Arsenal will defend and do well. And I think that Manchester United are in the same position as Tottenham. I just don't think defensively they're good enough. And I think that they'll slip up somewhere along the line as well.
Well, they both play Liverpool lead, don't they? At Anfield.
So there you go. So
that's what you look at. Yeah.
That's what, Come on,
Kev, what about you?
I think it could go to that game. Of course, it could. But I'd like to think our next 5 or 4 games is going to create a bigger gap.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's going to create a bigger gap. We have got a game in hand, and that game in hand is probably Chelsea. It's going to create. I'd like to think we create a bigger gap of 4 or 5 points. So by the time we get down to that game, there's maybe 4 points in it. Do you know what I mean? So you can go in there and you could fly at them. Do you know what I mean? So even if the worst happened and you didn't win, you're still a point ahead, and you just got to take care of business on the last day of the season against Everton. So
what's a horrible game that'll be for you to watch, mate?
Hey, listen, I always say I just sit down there and may the best team win, mate, because my team's Arsenal, but me, I've got a lot of love for Everton, mate. So,
of course,
Kev, if a win gives us top 4 and they lose, then that means they go down.
Listen, Tom, I've been through it already. I can't lose. Do you know what I mean? I can't lose. They need to win to stay up. Arsenal need to win to get Champions League football. I can't lose on the day, can I?
Yeah.
If Arsenal win, Arsenal win. There's nothing I can do about it, mate.
Or you can lose both.
Well, I can't because it ain't going to end in a draw, that's for sure.
I hope not.
Tom, what's your thoughts on this London derby? Is it gonna get to? I personally don't think it will. I just don't think it will. I
love your positivity, boys, but I really think it is. I really, really think it will go down to that game because I look at Spurs' running and it's so favourable.
Yeah,
it's
lovely,
so favourable for them. And if they build up a head of steam, with the players they've got and the manager there, you can't really see that. You can see them bottling because it's Spurs, but we haven't finished above them for so long. And I just feel like it's destined to go down to those last few games of the season. And they've scheduled it for that exact reason. They've put it there because it's a title decider, top 4 decider. And it's just so difficult to see us. It's difficult, to be honest. What's great is it's difficult to see us losing right now. It's difficult to see us losing against Palace. It's difficult to see us losing even away to West Ham or at home to Man United. And that's a great feeling. But I sat and did the last 10 game predictions with 5 of the members on TGT. And, there were so many people predicting
saw some of that.
9 wins.
Towards the end of that, I was like,
yeah.
All of them were like, W, win, win. I was thinking, wow, this is
sounds like me.
It's so tempting to do
that.
You're sitting there and thinking, law of averages, surely we're going to drop points. Like, it has to happen somewhere. And I just hope that if we do, it's the mental strength that this team has gained throughout this and last season. I think, especially last season, the lesson that we learned. that if we do lose or we do drop points, as we did, against Everton, and we bounced back, and as we did against Liverpool, we bounced back, and we did against City, and we've bounced back. That we can, as Kev says, shake it off and move to the next game, because that's the difference between us. Is that all of Spurs is focusing on is top four, all Man United is focusing on is top four, all Arteta is focusing on is the next game, and that's been the difference with us this season, is that we've got this focus of getting the next result, and that's why we celebrate our game so wildly, is because we've achieved that next goal, and the next goal is Palace, and hopefully we can take it.
Of course,
8 years since we've won there. 8
unbelievable.
years.
Thomas Rosicky, banger in the first minute.
In the first minute, Rosicky. I can't
I've
believe that.
never ever known us to go this long without beating Spurs.
Time's time, judges. It's time. It's got to be.
Time.
It's got to be.
Time.
It's got to be time, man. It's got to be. Just quickly before we wrap up, if we are going to lose a couple of games till the end of the season, which I think we probably will, if we're going to lose, let's say 3 games, let's hope we don't, but let's say we lose 3 games, would you boys rather lose to Chelsea, United, and West Ham, or would you rather lose to Palace, Brighton, and Leeds, judges? Or does it not matter?
Don't matter.
Doesn't matter, does it?
because the reason
that's a horrible question,
Yeah, I know it is horrible. It is horrible. I was asked this the other day, and I said the same as Tom. It doesn't really matter, and he said, "Well, it does, because people will go, oh my God, you're losing to Leeds, and it will be meltdown. Or if you lose to Chelsea and United, you think, do you know what? On their day, they're very, very difficult to beat." So I kind of got what he was saying after that.
I get that. I get what he's saying on that.
That's what I was trying to say.
We have got to. At some stage, take care of one of the big boys, and it's a lot harder away from home. But at home, Man United, we listen. The pressure was on Man United to beat us back in the day. They was in a poor run of form, and they got the job done. You know what I mean? Like, so we've got to get the job done at home. So I think we've got to win all of our home games, because that says a president, And I think we need to go to West Ham or Chelsea and beat one of them. And it'd be lovely to beat both, but we need to beat one of them 2 teams. We're capable of it. Defensively, we need that. But I also think that we need to do it, because every time we come up against one of these top boys, we lose. And I think it's now time we just need to put that on the CV, that that with the way things are going, that we're doing this more defensively, we're a lot better defensively, this and that. This, as I said earlier on, steam through these games, set a precedent, set a statement, and we need to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of got what he was getting at, because that is rightly, we're not beating the big boys. If you look at the games we've lost this season, it's all against the guys in the top 6. So I understood what he was meaning, although it wouldn't matter points wise actually at all who we lose to, as long as it's those 3 games that we lose. I kind of got what he meant, because losing to somebody like the big boys, you kind of sit there and think Arsenal are beating the teams around them, but they just cannot go to that next level. But maybe that's for next season, KC. I don't know. Maybe that's the way it is.
Dan, I'd rather have that problem than losing to the likes of Leeds and Southampton and that, because that would say to us we're bottle jobs, right? Even more so, losing to Leeds and all that. No. If we're going to lose, we've got to lose to the top sides. That's who we've got to lose to. But I honestly don't. I don't think we've got 3 defeats in us. I'll say that now. I don't think we have.
Like to hear that.
But you know what, Lee? This is what I will say. I'd rather not lose. I'd take a win and a draw against West Ham. A win against West Ham and a draw at Chelsea. That'll do me.
100%. Yeah, that'll do me. Yeah,
that'll do me.
Yeah.
Not saying that we're going to win every game, but I'll take a draw at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
And I'll take a win against West Ham. Do the double over them, because we need them points.
Yeah, we do. Tom, lastly on this.
What was the games again? It was the 3: Palace, Leeds, Southampton, or United, City. Sorry, United, West Ham, Chelsea. Was that
Chelsea,
the 3? If you're telling me that it doesn't matter and that we qualify for top 4, then it doesn't matter. But obviously, if you're asking me what would I rather lose to, obviously I'd rather lose to Palace, Leeds, and and Southampton, because losing to United gives them 3 points, it gives West Ham 3 points, it gives Chelsea 3 points. So, but if it doesn't matter, then obviously I'd rather lose against the teams that you'd be able to come up with a reason as to why we lost. But it's a real horrible question. So,
It is horrible. It is a horrible question. Let's hope we don't have to go into that and we just win as many as we can to the end of this season and get that top 4 spot, which I hope that we can do. Guys, been an absolute pleasure. My thanks to Lee, to Tom, and to KC. My thanks to everybody in the chat. My thanks to everybody for listening and all your comments and super chats. And of course, everybody listening in the audio. We'll be back very, very soon, probably looking at doing something on the weekend to wrap up some of the games. And of course, we will be there Monday night to watch Arsenal versus Palace. Lee judges.
Just before we go, it is the 21st anniversary of David Rocastle today.
I know I'd forgotten something.
Legend of the football club. I just want to say, I've seen all the clips today and everybody remembering him and all that. I think it's fantastic to see everybody remembering him and all that. And his name's always sung on away games. And I watched that little clip you done today, Kev. It's fantastic. But it does upset me as well, to see that.
It's upset. It is upset, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is upset.
But what a player he was! What an absolute player he was! And I'll tell you what. The one thing I remember about Dave, he done that step over. He done it every game, and every game he done someone with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he does two of the best players in the midfield of English football at the time, in Paul Ince and Brian Robson. If you've not seen that goal, please go and watch that goal, because
you've not seen Kev's celebration with him afterwards.
It just sums it all up. You know what I mean?
Also a half-decent goalkeeper, a half-decent goalkeeper as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah, it's right. It's just a mind-blowing goal, and he didn't do that. He done it on more than one occasion, but that just sums him all up there. And as I've always said, my biggest regret as an Arsenal fan is I never met David, but I've met all his family and all that. And I just wish I had just shook his hand at some stage, because, even the goal at White Hart Lane, he's calming people down. Just a fantastic footballer. And so 21 years, 33 years of age. It's just not fair.
Tragic. Yeah, no, absolutely. Kev, obviously you knew and loved him, and I think it's great that we do celebrate the life of Rocky still every single year, because he was so important to the Arsenal, and he was what youngsters coming through look up to still now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you see the picture of Rocky on the training ground wall and Saka going past, touching it, and stuff like that. It's there's a connection there, isn't there, with these young players? It means a lot, Dan. He was such a brilliant man. He was such a brilliant footballer, such a great person. Being around Rocky, you knew what it was like to be at Arsenal. You know what I mean? He's a special guy, and he really impacted a lot of people's lives who he was around. And he taught me so much as a younger player coming through. South London boy, youngster, and he's a South London boy as well. And he was just such a great ambassador for Arsenal. The saying that, the saying was around before him, but when he said it, remember who you are, what you are, and who you represent. When he said it, it carried weight. Do you know what I mean? It carried some weight, and he's kind of, that's his quote. So, there were some fantastic number 7s before him, and there'll be great number 7s after him, but I think not everyone's as revered as Rocky for wearing that number 7 shirt at the Arsenal, that's for sure. And 21 years, time flies. I tell you, seems like yesterday we were, celebrating or commiserating 20 years, and now it's 21. The years are flying by, guys, and it's great that we could celebrate his life.
Yeah, absolutely, and well said, KC. Absolute pleasure to join you boys and I'll chat about the Arsenal. Make sure you head over to the Highbury Squad and subscribe as well. Make sure you head over to the Gooner Talk as well and hit a like and subscribe on their content. Thank you all for joining us in the chat. Thank you all for joining us live. We'll speak to you next time. Until then, up the Arsenal, and let's hope for 3 points. Take care, guys.